Here we have an almost completed beaded design that I've been working on for this tutorial demonstration. And what we're going to do is actually learn how to work with beads on a curve. Working with little seed beads is not very problematic. They lay down nicely and will lay fluidly along a curved line or an arc. But these little bugle beads are another story. They don't lay down quite as fluidly, so I thought it would be good to demonstrate how to handle them so that we'll have a little more ease and satisfaction. So I'm going to turn my work and work on this little arc here, this little curl that I've created. If you can see, there's just a very ever so slight little pencil line there. So once again, I'm using the same seed beads I have been using, which is these little bronze glass seed beads and bugle beads, these little green tiny bugle beads. So knowing that the bugle bead really will lay down because of its flat edges, it needs a little fussing with, and so hopefully this will help demonstrate what I'm trying to actually articulate. So here are the beads that we're going to lay down, and I find it easier to really just let the bead and the thread sort of dictate exactly where I'm going to put them. And keep in mind, I'm going for as fluid a line as I can achieve, and sometimes it's better than others. So I think that looks pretty good, and it's really close to my pencil line. So as you can tell, when I pull the string taut, then the beads are not going to lay fluidly. So I'm going to release the tension on the beads and try to replace them. And just like we've done in the past, I am going to create a little stability and security here by back stitching. And once again, it wants to snap into place. I'm just going to go for the last bead and see, it laid down so much more nicely. Okay, but I do need to pull it a little taut. Okay, now I'm going to load my beads again with a little bronze seed bead, and I think I can continue with my pattern of 1 bronze bead and 3 bugle beads. There we go. Now I am not really trying to make both of these little arched designs exactly the same. So I'm just going to allow the thread by pulling on it. You see, you can adjust where it goes simply by pulling on it and deciding what you like as far as how these beads are going to lay down. So I think that will work for me. And once again, it pretty much is staying on the line that I had originally drawn. So we're going to pull it down, knowing that we need to let go of the taut. And this time, I think I'm going to try back stitching with 2 beads and see what happens. And just move your work around however things feel the most comfortable to you. Okay. There we go. There's the 2 beads I had hoped to get back onto the thread. And this is really, the back stitching aspect of this is really for security, okay? All right, fair enough. So I'm going to end my line here with a seed bead and a tiny little, actually metal bead with a little texture to it. You can see here and here and here. That's how I have finished those off. So there we go. Now, just like before, I'm going to go down in front of that bead to secure it. Okay. And I'm going to back stitch the larger bead. And you could do the larger bead and the smaller bead. I just feel like this will probably be enough. And because this larger bead has a little more weight to it, and you can pull your thread and help to arrange how you want things to lay down. So because of that bead's weight, I think it would be a good idea to go through it twice. And know that the larger the beads that you work with, the greater the likelihood that they could get snagged and come loose. So be sure you secure them, okay? Now I will actually go to the back of my fabric and tie off a knot to secure that. But for now, since we're gonna, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to leave it, and then we will work on a different stitch. All right, now we are going to work on learning how to do these little stacked beads. Now here I have another bugle bead, and it is white and crystally, and I'm sorry if it's hard to see against this white, but I wanted it to be subtle. So this is the bead we're going to load, and then we're going to load an ever so small pink bead on top of it, just like we've done here, okay? So once again, you can see why it's so important that your needle is long. It gives you something to work with and to maneuver, and that eye is really, really small. There are a lot of needles in my collection that would never go through the whole of that little seed bead. So I'm going to just decide where to position my piece, which is really right here. Okay, and I'm not being super critical about where I place it. And then I'm going to load both beads but I'm not going to go through the pink bead. I'm actually going to go through the white bead. Okay, there we go. And ideally, you want your little tiny bead to lay on its side. So there's one little stacked bead, and we're going to do two more. So let's come up through the fabric and load another white bugle bead. It's sort of in between a bugle and a regular bead, but it's more of a tunnel than it is round. So there they are, loaded. I'll put those again onto the fabric, not going through the pink bead, but going through the larger bead that's its base, and pulling it gently. There we go. And I'm not having to tie these off. I'm working in small groups, so I'm okay with that. But I probably would tie these off after this little grouping, so you can see if something were to happen and the beads came off, then you wouldn't have quite so much to have to replace. Once again, not going through the pink, as you can see, going through the larger bead. There we go. That is called bead stacking. And you can do it with round beads. It would be difficult to do with the bugle beads, but these are sort of short and stout and work nicely. Okay. You know what I need is more. All right, the final little stitch that we're going to do is simply called a single stitch. And these little beads here are all placed as a single stitch. So once again, I'm just going to be sort of free form in what I do. Pull my thread up, load one single little bead, and you want your bead to lay on its side. You don't want the hole up if you can help it. So I'm simply going to put the needle down on the other side and pull it, and the bead nicely lays on its side. And then we're going to secure it again with another stitch, which is your back stitch. And there's one. All right, I'm going to do another. Let's see. Come up, load a bead, lay it down so that it will lay on its side. Go down right next to it. Come up again to secure it. A little back stitch. So you can see with beading, you use really a lot of the same techniques. The whole idea is to secure your work, and you can devise your own system. It's like anything else. You can come up with what you feel like works for you as well. I would never dream of being in absolutes of how to do things. If you find ways that work better for you, then that is exactly what you should do. And if you're like I am, if you do things long enough, you discover different ways of doing things that you like better than how you started out. So there we go. We have put down our other little beads, and I'm going to secure it, and I will tie this bead off on the back side and any stray threads that I have. So there you have it. There is a little beaded design. I can see that in various spots or all over a dress if I got extremely enthusiastic and wanted to spend a lot of time. And I've made a border that I feel like would be really pretty with it. So I hope you have enjoyed learning how to do some very, very simple beading to embellish whatever project you are inspired to adorn.